I just want to say, oh my gosh, this movie was perfect, or at least damn near perfect. I loved this movie. That was one of my first reactions to James Gunn's Superman. Stick around to the end of the video to see my rating. Alright, so finally, after 12 years and what feels like an eternity to a lot of Superman fans, James Gunn's vision of Superman has hit the silver screen. And at the hands of James Gunn, we follow a newer Superman as he has to defend Metropolis and navigate a double life as Clark Kent and Superman, while Lex Luthor is plotting against Superman in a world of metahumans. That's about all I can say, as this is going to be a spoiler-free video. I am going to be posting a a video talking all spoilers once the movie officially releases on Friday. But today I'm going to be giving you my spoiler-free thoughts and review of the film. So with James Gunn's Superman, there's a lot of differences and a lot of similarities to old versions of Superman. The most recent version of Superman before James Gunn was Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. That film is not the best. I think there were some choices made with Zack Snyder's vision that some were cool and unique and shined compared to other iterations of Superman, but some made him seem like a very un-Superman version of the character, because he has a dark side, and I don't think that's what Superman's all about. Superman's all about hope, and I just don't think Zack Snyder's version really showed that very well. But I'm happy to say with James Gunn's version of Superman, that complaint is completely gone. One noticeably different thing that I just wanted to point out is the Superman crest that James Gunn went with. I really liked when he decided to change this, because to me, this crest that he made for this version of the movie seems more alien-like, and I think the classic S would have been fine, but Superman's an alien, and maybe not all alien races use the English alphabet that we use here on Earth. So I think going with this, you can still see the S in it, but it's different, and I really like that they went with that. And anyways, onto the plot. It's very fast-paced, and if you like fast-paced movies, this is going to be a great one for you, because there's never a resting moment in this film. There's always something going on, which I think is a strength. A lot of people are going to see this as a weakness because there's not a lot of resting time, but because there's always something going on, the runtime flies by. This movie runs at about 2 hours and 10 minutes, give or take, and it doesn't feel like that. There's constantly an event or a new section of the story that's at hand, and there's never a dull moment, which I think plays for a really good runtime, because some superhero films that are pushing over 2 hours make it seem a little excessive. Like when I saw Jurassic World Rebirth, check out my review if you haven't already. That film was around the same runtime, and it felt like it. You felt that runtime. But here with Superman, I didn't feel the runtime, and I left wanting to see more of this movie. I think this plot mirrors a lot of structure to the Batman from 2022 in the way of the way that the plot uses Clark Kent versus Superman, in the same way that the Batman used Bruce Wayne and Batman. The amount of ratio of screen time is similar in that structure, and so I think those two kind of mirror each other. Not to say that they're similar movies, because they're very different and they're both unique in their own ways, but the way that they use their human identity to superhero identities is structured very similar in these movies. I don't think that's bad. I think one of my complaints when I reviewed Superman the movie was that there was a lot of Clark Kent and not enough Superman. Here, you're kind of getting a lot of Superman and not enough Clark Kent, but it's not a huge issue, because you're still seeing enough of the human world to not necessarily need Clark Kent, rather than just being able to see Superman. But some people will see that as a disappointment because they do like the character Clark Kent. I think that's a good area to segue into the acting, because David Corenswet played Superman and Clark Kent in this movie, and he did phenomenal. The way that he acted was amazing. You could really tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman, even when it came to his voice. There's scenes in the trailer even when David is playing Superman, but he is in his Clark attire, and you can even tell that he's using the persona of Superman because of the way his voice sounds. His voice sounds a lot more confident when he plays Superman than when he's playing Clark, and I think that's exactly what a good Superman actor needs, and so David gets the pass from me. I think he's going to be a really good Superman down the line, and he's probably going to be one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I think not that it's a competition, but Henry Cavill did good. But I'm very excited to see how David Cornsway is going to play him down the road. Another thing that Superman, like that David really embodied in Superman, was showing like the language choice. There's scenes obviously when Superman are under a lot of pressure and he doesn't swear, and I think that's like exactly what Superman would do. Like the Superman from the comics would not swear. He would say stuff exactly like what David says when he says dang and golly. It's very funny and kind of comedic because there are other superheroes in this film, like Green Lantern's in the film, and so is Mr. Terrific, and they're swearing and they're kind of making fun of Superman just for not swearing and wanting to be a softie, and I think that's exactly who Superman is, and I think David did a really good job at playing and being Superman in this movie. David's co-star, Rachel Brosnahan, she played Lois Lane, and I think she also did amazing. The chemistry between Rachel and David on set was amazing. You could tell they felt like a real couple. They like bickered and had a little bit of fighting in some of the scenes that they were in together, and that felt like, it felt tense, and you were like kind of wondering what's going to happen here and what is really like the conflict. But they did it in a way where like it felt like a real couple, and they also had like lovey-dovey scenes with each other, and those were also like, they felt like a real couple. The big standout to me when it comes to the acting and the characters was Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. He did an amazing job at embodying a true hater. Lex Luthor in this movie is a D1 hater, and that is like his entire persona. That was amazing because that's exactly who Lex is in the comics, and Nicholas Hoult was like phenomenal at acting as Lex Luthor. There's a scene that's in the trailers, so this is not a spoiler, but there's a scene where Lex Luthor is just like crying, and he's like, you can see on his face, he's filled with hatred, and he's crying because of his like hatred, and it felt like he was genuinely that mad, and so I thought that was amazing. Like, the way that Nicholas Hoult played Lex was amazing. He was a genius, but he was also like evil, and he was he was awesome. Nicholas Hoult is definitely the standout actor to me, I think, in this film. Not to say that he's better or worse than everyone else, but he's definitely the standout to me. This whole cast was amazing. I think everyone was cast perfectly, even down to like Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner or Green Lantern. He was like snarky and arrogant, but he was also funny because of those personality traits, and I think Nathan Fillion played that character well. And there's just so many actors and so many characters in this movie that felt like they were cast perfectly, and I think James Gunn has a really good hand at the DCU, and it's going to go really well based on what I've seen so far. Another thing I would like to point out is the camera work in this movie was amazing. Especially the flying scenes when the camera is moving around Superman, or the fight scenes when he's in the air and the camera just pans around Superman and it will go like up and down and you can see everything in the city and everywhere around him. It was amazing, and it felt unique. The camera moving, like the camera movement and camera work felt unique, and it was really nice to see because it wasn't stale like some flying scenes are in other movies. It felt like immersive, and it felt like you were seeing what Superman was seeing in some scenes, where other scenes you were seeing Superman's face and the world around him as he flew. It was amazing. It looked really cool. And the visual effects in this movie were also great. There's a lot of visual effect heavy scenes, and they all looked amazing. Specifically, I'd like to point out the monster that's in all the trailers, like the dragon looking monster thing. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it looked really cool, and it looked like real. I know it obviously was a CGI probably model, and they just made it huge, but it looked awesome. And Superman's powers, Green Lantern's powers, everyone's powers and flying in this movie looked amazing. The green screen, if they used any green screen, I assume they did, you don't notice it, and the CGI that's used for the powers and everything else that they use CGI for looks amazing. Crypto looked amazing when he was flying as well. Crypto was a nice addition to this film, and I thought maybe with how much he was in the trailers that I would get a little bit annoyed by the flying Superman dog, but I thought he would fit really well into this movie, and he didn't feel like he was self-inserted to this movie. I feel like he had a place in this movie. He stuck to his place, and that place worked out for him. My only complaint with James Gunn's Superman would probably be that this film almost feels like a sequel. You jumped straight into the movie, And this kind of goes along with the pacing, but it's really fast paced, and there's no exposition. The way that I described Superman the movie from 1979 was that there was too much exposition. This film has almost none, and I think that's the only area that I would kind of dock this movie points, is that it just jumps straight into the movie. There's no setting anything up. There's about a 10-second like opening crawl, kind of like Star Wars has, where they're set up, but that's about it. And I think that's why it feels like a sequel, is the opening crawl is your introduction. And so I think that kind of takes a little bit away from the movie, but not enough to make me dislike this movie, or not enough to even make me feel like I don't want to rewatch this movie. It's still an amazing movie, and I really think that's the only place where this movie falls. The dialogue was there. The dialogue felt like not rhythmic, but like almost unrhythmic. It didn't feel like it was written dialogue. It just felt like conversations like a good movie should have. The fighting scenes were amazing. The combat in this movie was awesome. It looked amazing even with the CGI that they had. Superman's power set looked amazing. The characters in this film were awesome. The dialogue was awesome. The plot was amazing. Everything in this movie was awesome. And so that is why I'm going to give this movie 5 stars. I think this is one you should go see in theaters. It's going to be a generational movie, I think. It's my favorite movie of the year so far. I think favorite movie of the year so far. Second place is Sinners by Ryan Coogler. Check that out if you haven't yet. And yeah, side note, I wanted to say sorry for not completing the Road to Superman series like I said I was going to. I don't have access to watch the rest of the movies anymore, so I couldn't review those. But if I get, 5 comments saying to continue that, I will reboot that series and watch the rest of the Superman movies and review them. Like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and thanks for watching.